I don't believe that you have to be high vibrational to manifest your desires quickly. And I learned this when I left the United States. If you are new here, my name is Siobhan. I'm a 40-something Black American woman who spends most of her time on socials talking about the benefits of solo travel and moving abroad. Um, I I have learned so much. I have grown so much through expanding my life and my worldview through travel. And that's something that I want to continue exploring and exploring with a community. So here we are. Um, this whole talk of like manifestation, I know that it feels like our world is kind of saturated with it. Um, and I really feel like this is my experience in particular is not talked about enough. I actually experienced incredibly fast, rapid manifestation when I was at my lowest, one of my lowest points. I had moved to South Korea in 2016, and I was there for a year and a half. But before I moved, I experienced a series of really difficult things. Um, or like when I moved, I experienced like in rapid succession. My grandmother passed while I was in orientation to become a certified teacher. She was 99 at the time. I was in Korea, and so I wasn't able to attend her funeral. Within the first month of being there, I went through a really difficult and painful breakup. I had gone through this whirlwind romance that summer before leaving, and then the breakup was like super painful. I had just moved countries alone. I didn't have any support system. I didn't know anybody in South Korea. I went because I had not done like study abroad or anything in college or high school. And this was a way to give myself something that I kind of felt like had been denied when I was a kid. So I wanted to have that experience. And I started a new job, right? So, like, painful breakup, death in the family. I moved countries alone and I started a new job in a place where I had no friends and no support system. Those are incredibly stressful events. Anybody would tell you. And I experienced all of those in succession, like at once. Most people will experience getting a new job or moving to a new city or what, um, like piecemeal. But for me, so yeah, it was a lot. And because it was a lot, the stress of the experience really got to me. And for the first 6 to 8 months, I was there. I would go to school, I would teach, and I would come home to my little studio apartment and cry. And the next day, I would get up, I would go to school, I would teach, I would come back to my apartment and cry. I had not experienced a depression like that, a sadness, like a just listlessness, um, like that in years. And then, to combat that, I started writing. I started journaling, just kind of like trying to move some of that energy out of my body. And also, interestingly enough, I had set up an altar for the first time in my life. I am a child of evangelical Christians. I grew up in the South, I grew up in Mississippi. And so the idea of like having an altar or having beliefs other than Jesus was just not something that was tolerated in my family. But at this time in my life, I started kind of um, stepping away, really questioning, I guess deconstructing. That's the word that people are using now. The term that are using has become really popular. But at the time, I was deconstructing my faith and I was learning more about um, different ways of connecting with the divine. And so I set up an altar for the first time too. And when I tell you, I started experiencing rapid in the midst of all of that sadness, listlessness, depression, anxiety, all of that, I was not happy. I was not happy with myself, with my circumstances. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? What is going, all of that. I started experiencing um rapid manifestation. Rapid. Okay. I have three stories for you. One, I remember one day I was at home and I decided I had made a couple of friends who had met their boyfriends in Korea on Tinder. So I decided to get on Tinder just for the hell of it. And I at the time, swiping through, I wasn't really seeing anyone that I was interested in. And I remember thinking like, I don't know, it'd be really cool to, it'd be really cool to learn pottery. I was trying to find ways to like pull myself out of my slump. And I figured, I was like, well, what if I dig back into like some of the more creative things that I've been interested in, but never had a chance to actually do. So I remember saying out loud one day, like, it'd be kind of cool to learn pottery. I think it'd be really dope. Forgot about it, went about my business. I want to say maybe like a week later, I'm swiping through Tinder again, and I see that I've matched with someone. Guess who that someone was? It was a guy. He was cute. He was located in Seogwipo. I was in Jeju-si at the time. And guess what he did for a living? He was an artist, a ceramic artist, and owned a pottery studio in Seogwipo. Okay. Again, I am in the dumps emotionally. I'm depressed AF. Okay. I was like, wow, wow, okay. Second story. This was coming towards the end of, or yeah, towards the end of my first year teaching. And I was like, I was going to Seoul, back and forth to Seoul on a regular basis because I had friends there. And also there was a capoeira teacher there. I didn't know of anybody else in the entire country teaching capoeira. And he was a black guy. And he was like teaching on a regular basis. And I had met him. I think I found him through Instagram and saw he was in Seoul and like got in contact and was like, dude, I would love to come to class because I used to play capoeira in college. And so I started practicing again. And I remember meeting like one weekend, I met this guy in class, and he and I got to talking. He said that his girlfriend was a teacher at like an independent school that was for adults. And at the time, I had been thinking, I was like, I really want to start teaching adults. I think I don't want to teach kids anymore. I want to be in a larger city. I want, like Jeju was cool, but at the time it was small and there wasn't a whole lot going on. I wanted to be in a more happening place. By the way, I had moved from New York City to Korea. And I was used to like more energy and excitement and things to do and museums and great food. So that was what I wanted more of. I didn't say this to anybody though. I'm just thinking this in my mind. I go to Seoul, I meet this guy at capoeira class. He's telling me about his job and his girlfriend's job. And he's like, I think my girlfriend's school is hiring teachers. Let me get in touch with her and we'll send you the information. I got an opportunity from that conversation to apply to teach adults at this school. And it was literally like 2 weeks, it was no time at all. Again, I was, I was, I was not happy. And these things were still coming in. These opportunities were still coming in. Um, And the last one, or the last one that I'll share, is that while I was there, obviously I'm in a new country, and so I'm listening to the music, I'm learning more about the culture, and there was a musician who at the time had decided to start his own record label. And I I was, how when you're young and you think about like you have crushes. on musicians and you think, you know what? How cool would it be to like how cool would it be to meet this person? And of course, I'm looking at his Instagram and all of this. I'm like, oh my God, it'd be so dope. It'd be so dope. Again, I'm just saying this to myself, not telling other people, whatever. I get a message from a friend that lives in Seoul that this particular musician is having a launch party for his new record label in Seoul. She invites me to come up there. We're three gorgeous Black girls. And we get into the venue through the VIP line and didn't have to pay, didn't have to do anything. We get in the venue through the VIP line and I end up meeting this artist by the end of the night. Again, y'all, this is why I'm questioning, and I don't necessarily think that you have to be like high vibing, happy. You know, I really think that whether you're high vibration or low vibe, whatever the fuck that shit means, excuse my French, whatever that means, um, you don't have to worry about your vibe as much. I think what you really need to pay attention to is your level of resistance. You can either be so happy and joyful and in this incredible place where your desires are coming through and you're saying, yes, give me more. This is amazing. And you're open and you're taking the chances and you're making shit happen. And, you know, or you can be like I was when I was living in South Korea and I was so low and so detached from really deeply desiring anything that you can just kind of put stuff out there. And because I didn't have enough mental, psychic, emotional, whatever you want to call it, energy to really want it that bad and in turn resist it that much, it just came through. Things just came through. So I that's what I want to I guess impress upon you guys is that it doesn't always, you know, your experience is unique, first of all, and things don't always go exactly how you've been taught and how you've been told. Now I'm curious if this is something that like if this is something you've heard because I have not heard very many people talk about the importance of resistance. I feel like there's so much more emphasis on being at a particular emotional place rather than an emphasis on like you're just allowing. I don't know. Maybe I'm not putting it the way that I want, but I'm not, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that you have to be happy in order to manifest, period. So that said, I'm really curious. What have you learned about manifestation in your life beyond what you've been told, beyond what you've experienced? Not beyond what you've experienced, beyond what you've been told, beyond what you've read, beyond what you've heard from other people. What have you personally experienced when it comes to putting your desires out there and then seeing them come to fruition? And I mean in particular the idea of putting it out there without actively working towards it, because all of those experiences were me just saying in my head or out loud in my little one bedroom apartment, this would be kind of cool. And then the opportunity to experience that cool thing just coming up out of nowhere. Um, and if you have a belief that you no longer hold, something you've been told that you've had a very different experience about or a different experience of that you want to share in the comments, please do. I would love to hear it. And, you know, if there's something that, oh, sorry, ADHD, totally got distracted. Yeah, if there's something that you belief you held that has been directly challenged by your experience, Share it in the comments. I would love to hear it.